Okay, let's unpack this. We begin in Copenhagen, Denmark, on what was, by all accounts, a really beautiful, warm summer Thursday, August 10th, 2017.
Just a perfectly ordinary evening for most people in the city.
Exactly. But for a 30-year-old journalist named Kim Wall, it was meant to be this quick, professional stop before she started this huge new chapter in her life.
And Kim was, she wasn't just any journalist. She was brilliant. A graduate from the Columbia University School of Journalism, writing for huge outlets.
The New York Times, The Guardian, she had this incredible resume.
Right, but what really defined her work was her focus. She sought out stories about people on the fringes, people often ignored by the mainstream, the innovators, the marginalized.
And that search for the unique, for the fringe, is what brought her to the subject of her next interview.
A man who was anything but ignored. Peter Madsen. He was 47, a pretty famous figure in Denmark, really. He walked this very public line between being seen as an engineering genius and, well, profoundly eccentric.
Between genius and madness, as some people put it.
That's the phrase, yeah. He was a self-taught, incredibly ambitious inventor. He'd built 3 of his own submarines, and the latest one, the UC-3 Nautilus, was his masterpiece.
And the Nautilus wasn't just some backyard project, right? This was a serious vessel.
Oh, absolutely. It was launched back in 2008. It was 18 meters long, 40 tons. At the time, it was one of the largest privately built submarines on the planet.
Wow.
He was a kind of folk hero for it, the ultimate DIY visionary. And when Kim reached out, he was already onto his next big thing, building a rocket to send someone into space.
So you can see why she'd be fascinated by a character like that.
Completely. He's exactly the kind of person she would want to profile.
The timing of all this is it's incredibly painful to look back on. Kim and her partner, Olstes Bay, were actually hosting a little farewell party that exact evening.
Right, on the Refshalein Peninsula. They were literally about to move to China together.
And that afternoon, Madsen contacts Kim. He's insistent, urging her to come to his workshop right away for tea to do the interview about his rocket.
It was classic Madsen, from what you read. Impulsive, demanding, everything on a schedule. And this meeting, it just escalates very, very quickly. He suddenly says, forget the tea at the workshop.
How about a trip on the Nautilus instead?
Exactly. An evening excursion. An offer for an exclusive, unbelievable piece of reportage.
What a dilemma. She goes back to the party, which is just kicking off, and tells Ole. She even asks if he wants to come along.
And you can just feel his hesitation. On one hand, it's this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. On the other, they have guests arriving for their own party.
A party for them. He felt he had to stay, right?
He did. He encouraged Kim to go, though. He pointed out, with the move to China just days away, they couldn't just reschedule with someone as unpredictable as Madsen. He thought it would be a phenomenal story for her.
And that's the moment. That one simple decision. Kim agrees, promises she'll be right back, that she'll be back before the night is over.
So around 6:45 p.m., she says goodbye to Ole and their friends.
She walks a few hundred meters down to the harbor, boards the 40-ton Nautilus, and by 7:00 p.m., they're gone, disappeared into the water.
Ole and their guests literally watched from the shore and waved as the submarine pulled away. And that was the last time anyone saw Kim Wall alive.
That sets the stage for our deep dive today. We're going to track the catastrophic sequence of events from that moment. The investigation, the perpetrator's lies, and the chilling psychological profile of a man who hid this horrifying, violent inner world behind a facade of innovation.
It's a chilling study of what happens when world-class intellect meets a complete moral void.
So the expectation was, a few hours, a quick interview, a memorable trip, and then back to the party.
Right, but the Nautilus doesn't return that night.
Yeah.
And you can just imagine the feeling on shore shifting from, annoyance to real concern.
Then it shifted fast.
Incredibly fast. At 1:43 a.m., Ole calls the police and reports Kim missing. But just 30 minutes later, he escalates it. He calls the Joint Rescue Coordination Center.
The JRCC. So he knew this was potentially more than a missing person case. This was a naval situation.
Exactly. A massive homemade submarine is unaccounted for. The coastal radio tries to contact Madsen, but there's just nothing. Silence.
So it goes from a missing person report to a full-blown emergency in less than an hour?
By 3:39 a.m., the JRCC tells Copenhagen police they suspect it's a serious accident, that the sub might be submerged, and that triggers everything.
A massive search operation.
Massive. It launched around 4:39 a.m. We're talking boats, helicopters, covering this huge stretch of water from Copenhagen out towards Bornholm.
And they were on a clock, right? Because of the oxygen supply.
A literal raced against time.
Yeah.
Experts figured if the Nautilus was underwater, they had enough oxygen for maybe a day. Every minute was critical.
The search goes on all morning, Friday, August 11th, and then after almost 16 hours of silence, he reappears.
At 10:30 a.m., Madsen gets on the radio. He reports a technical problem, and within 10 minutes, a rescue helicopter spots him. He's just standing there on the sub's tower waving.
What a moment of relief that must have been for the search crews.
For a second, yes. They found the sub, they found him. But what happens next is immediately suspicious.
What did the witnesses see?
Several people reported seeing Madsen go back inside the submarine for a moment after the helicopter spotted him. And moments after he comes back out, the Nautilus just sinks.
And it sank fast.
Incredibly fast. We're not talking slow listing.
Yeah.
It plunged, gone in seconds.
What does that imply? I mean, if it's a real technical problem, wouldn't you just stay out and wait for rescue? Why go back inside a sinking ship?
It implies a deliberate action. A catastrophic accident usually leads to a more gradual sinking. The speed right after he went inside strongly suggested he'd intentionally flooded it. He was destroying the evidence.
And Madsen himself, what was his demeanor?
Chillingly calm. He just dives into the sea, gets picked up by a civilian boat. When he gets to shore, he's met by all this media, and he just gives a thumbs up.
A thumbs up.
Yeah. He tells reporters he's fine but a bit sad, and that the sinking of his Nautilus was extreme. No panic, no distress, and absolutely no mention of concern for Kim.
So the one question everyone has is, where is Kim Wall?
And that's when he tells the first crucial lie, right there on the dock. He claims he dropped her off safely at a peninsula in Copenhagen Harbor around 10:30 the night before.
Hours before the search even began.
Right. But with Kim completely missing, with the sub suspiciously sunk, the police were having none of it. They put him in a squad car right then and there and took him in for questioning.
So the authorities moved incredibly fast. That same evening, Friday, August 11th, they put out a press release that must have just shocked everyone.
It did. They announced Peter Madsen had been arrested and charged not with negligence, but with the intentional killing of Kim Wall.
That's a huge leap, to go straight to murder without even having a body.
It is. But it shows how seriously they took his actions. The lies, the deliberate sinking of the sub. They acted immediately on the assumption of foul play. Divers went to work right away to find the Nautilus.
And they found it pretty quickly, right? In shallow water.
Yeah, in about 7 meters of water.
Right.
The recovery operation on Saturday, August 12th, became this huge public spectacle. There were like 500 people on the shore watching them pull it up.
And while this is happening, Madsen is still sticking to his story, that he just dropped her off.
Initially, yes, he was rigid about it. But I think he knew that once they got inside that submarine, his story was toast. The forensics would prove she'd been there.
So with the sub recovered, he changes his tune.
He changes his story completely.
Okay, so let's get into this second story, the accident narrative.
Right. So this new version is that there was this freak, tragic accident. He says they were surfacing, and he was climbing the ladder in the tower. He claims he slipped. And the hatch cover.
Which was heavy, right?
70 kilograms.
Oh.
So almost 155 pounds. He claims this massive hatch slammed shut and hit Kim, who was supposedly right behind him on the ladder.
And he finds her on the floor with a head wound.
A severe open head wound, he says. It sounds so engineered, doesn't it? It's a story that perfectly explains why her blood would be in the submarine, but removes any intent.
And his actions after that. How did he explain dumping her body?
He framed it as panic. He said he was so distraught he considered killing himself, but instead he decided to dispose of her body in the Baltic Sea to, cover up the accident.
The authorities didn't buy that for a second, did they?
No. But while it was a massive admission, he now says he dumped her body, it was still framed as negligence, not murder. The judge ordered him held on suspicion of negligent homicide under particularly severe circumstances.
What does that legal term mean, exactly?
It means they believed he caused her death, but weren't yet sure it was intentional murder. The severe circumstances part was about everything he did after she died, sinking the sub, getting rid of the body. It showed this complete criminal disregard for the evidence.
So now the submarine itself becomes the key piece of evidence to debunk this new story.
It was the linchpin. And within days, the technical report came back. It was definitive. The Nautilus did not sink because of a defect. Madsen had deliberately flooded it.
And the blood.
DNA analysis confirmed that the large amounts of blood found inside the sub belonged unequivocally to Kim Wall.
So the machine he built, his claim to fame, it completely betrayed his lies. His story was already falling apart. And yet, 10 days after she disappeared, Kim Wall was still missing.
Right. The search just intensified. Now, they weren't looking for a survivor. They were looking for a body, and they knew the man in custody was a pathological liar.
Any last glimmer of hope that she might be found alive was just brutally extinguished 10 days after she vanished.
On August 21st, a cyclist was out near the water southeast of Copenhagen and discovered a female torso washed ashore.
And the forensic examination of that torso revealed the true horror of what had happened.
It really did. The pathologist found that the torso had been weighted down with metal parts. It was a very deliberate, calculated attempt to keep it from surfacing.
Which speaks to premeditation. He thought this through.
Completely. And the examination of the torso itself? It was horrific. The medical examiner documented 15 separate stab wounds, and they were mostly concentrated in the genital area.
That finding must have changed the direction of the case immediately.
Instantly. The prosecution expanded the charges to include other sexual acts besides intercourse. The evidence now pointed to a violent sexual assault. And they confirmed that the arms, legs, and head had been cleanly severed with the saw.
With a saw. And that detail connects back to witness statements, doesn't it?
It was a terrifying confirmation.
Right.
Witnesses had seen Madsen with the saw on the morning of August 10th, the day Kim disappeared. The saw was still missing at this point, but the connection was obvious.
So after this discovery, the charges are upgraded again.
Absolutely. The prosecution adds willful killing murder and desecration of a corpse. But even then, even with her torso found, Madsen kept lying. He refused to admit he dismembered her. He was still clinging to this idea that she died by accident, and he dumped her body whole.
So if he's lying so meticulously about the physical evidence, the police must have been digging into his personal life, his digital life.
And this is where the facade of the eccentric inventor just completely collapses.
Yeah.
While he was in custody, police went through his computer, his hard drives, and they found this deeply disturbing digital trail.
What kind of things did they find?
They found videos showing women being tortured, hanged, and burned. The prosecution even suggested they believed these were real videos, not just fiction.
Oh, wow.
And his search history was just as bad. He'd been searching for things like throat-cutting women.
So this isn't just a passive interest in dark material. This is an active search for specific violent fantasies.
That's the key. And the timing is what makes it so damning. Police found that just 16 hours before Kim Wall boarded the Nautilus, Madsen watched a specific video.
And what was the video?
He'd found it using search terms that included decapitated girl and death struggle.
16 hours before. So while she's at home, packing for China, getting ready for her farewell party, he's watching videos of the exact type of violence he's about to inflict.
It established this clear, chilling link. It suggested her death wasn't an accident or even a sudden act of rage. It was the planned-out execution of a long-held, dark fantasy.
The investigation continued relentlessly, and there was a major breakthrough a couple of months later on October 6th.
Yes, the divers finally located more remains. They found weighted plastic bags containing Kim's legs, her head, her clothing, and a knife.
How on earth did they find them in the Baltic Sea after all that time? It sounds impossible.
It was a pretty incredible combination of old-school techniques and modern tech. They brought in these highly specialized cadaver dogs from Sweden.
Dogs that can detect remains underwater?
Exactly. The dogs alerted about 1,000 meters from where the bags were eventually found. That gave the investigators a target area. Then they used radar searches and sophisticated analysis of the ocean currents to pinpoint the location.
Wow.
And all the bags were weighted with lead, again showing how meticulous he was about trying to hide everything permanently. A few days later, they found the saw.
The saw that witnesses had seen him with.
The very same one.
Yeah.
The last remains, her arms, were found in late November, also weighted down with pipe sections.
And with the recovery of her head, the medical examiner could finally definitively refute his accident story.
This was the nail in the coffin for that lie. The autopsy confirmed there were 0 injuries on her skull, consistent with a 70-kilogram hatch cover falling on it. The accident story was a complete fabrication.
So, faced with this, he changes his story again. For a third time.
A third and final time, yes. He now claims Kim died suddenly from possibly carbon monoxide poisoning inside the sub while he was on deck.
Still denying he killed her directly.
Right. But in this final version, he did finally confess to the dismemberment. He admitted he cut up her body before sinking the remains.
This web of lies, plus all the forensic evidence, led to the final indictment.
On January 16, 2018, the prosecution formally charged him with murder and rape. They argued she was most likely strangled or had her throat cut based on the context, even if the dismemberment made it impossible to be 100% certain.
And the charges included details of what happened before she died?
Yes, the prosecution alleged pre-mortem torture. They said he had tied her up, beaten her, kicked her, and sexually abused her before he killed her. The full gruesome details were just unimaginable.
This really brings us to the psychological profile. What kind of person does this? The psychiatric report gave some really chilling insights.
It really did. The report concluded he was fully criminally responsible, so not legally insane. They described him as a psychopath with a severe sexual disturbance and pronounced narcissistic traits.
A very dangerous
The
combination.
most dangerous. The report said he was manipulative, superficially charming, and posed a clear and persistent danger to women.
So how did those two things, psychopathy and narcissism, feed into each other to create someone like Madsen?
Well, the psychopathy explains the severe lack of empathy. His complete inability to care about Kim's life or what her family was going through. It also explains the superficial charm he used to lure her onto the sub and the constant pathological lying.
And the narcissism was his public persona, right? The genius inventor who needed admiration.
Exactly, a deep-seated conviction that he was superior. The report even argued that the Nautilus and his rocket project weren't just hobbies, they were tools to maintain his godlike self-image. This toxic mix made him believe he was entitled to use people, to exploit them for his fantasies, without any regard for the consequences.
It sounds like he just couldn't separate his violent fantasies from reality anymore.
That's what the psychiatrist suggested, that these weren't just thoughts, they were a deep, overwhelming urge for absolute power and control, which eventually manifested in this horrific crime. His actions after the murder are textbook psychopathy. The dismemberment, weighting the body parts, sinking the sub. He saw it all as just a logistical problem to be solved. There was no emotion, no morality involved, just cold, rational calculation.
And he showed absolutely no remorse.
None. The report highlighted his emotional flatness. He just kept trying to escape accountability with more and more bizarre excuses. It's a hallmark of the pathology. He was simply incapable of feeling guilt.
The details that came out during the trial from that psychiatric assessment are they're beyond chilling. They show this cold, mechanical logic he applied to everything.
The quotes are haunting. When the psychiatrist asked him what you do with a large problem, he replied, "You cut it into smaller pieces."
My God, he's talking about dismembering Kim Wall's body.
As if it were an engineering problem,
Yeah.
a simple matter of efficient disposal. He even compared his preparations for the murder to the Battle of Trafalgar, elevating this horrific act into some kind of grand strategic plan.
And he argued a dead body deserves no special respect.
A complete and total void of respect for human dignity. And the prosecution, led by Jacob Boot-Chepson, really hammered this home. He painted Madsen as a pathological liar who showed no empathy whatsoever.
There were moments he showed emotion, though, weren't there?
Only for himself. The prosecution noted he only teared up when talking about his first wife, or bizarrely, a teddy bear he saw in a Holocaust museum.
A teddy bear.
Yeah, but the report stressed that the tears stopped as suddenly as they came. It was performative. For Kim Wall, there was nothing. No remorse, just concern for his own situation.
So the prosecution's case was built on the idea that this was meticulously planned.
They pointed to the tools, the saw, the knife, the lead pipes, the zip ties. None of that was standard equipment on the Nautilus. It was a kill kit. They demanded a life sentence.
And the defense, what was their argument?
The defense attorney argued it was all circumstantial, that without a definitive cause of death, they couldn't convict him of murder based on just a gut feeling.
But the weight of all the other evidence was just overwhelming.
It was. The lies, the digital trail, the dismembered body, the debunked accident story. It was an open and shut case for murder during a sexual assault.
And in 2018, after an 11-day trial, the verdict came down.
The court found him guilty on all counts: murder, sexual abuse, desecration of a corpse. He was sentenced to life in prison. He appealed, of course, but it was unanimously upheld.
And even behind bars, his story just gets stranger. He continued to make headlines.
The chaos just followed him. In August 2018, he was attacked by another inmate. Then, even more bizarrely, he started getting letters from groupies.
Women professing their love for him.
Yes, a disturbing number of them. One prison employee even had to quit her job after she developed strong feelings for him. It's a sickening phenomenon.
And he got married in prison.
He did. After his first wife divorced him, he married a Russian activist named Jenny Kirpin in 2019. She made these wild statements on social media calling him one of two victims of a crime. She argued that him surviving was his punishment. She called him the most beautiful, sensitive man she'd ever known. It was just a profound state of denial.
Did that last?
No. She filed for divorce in 2022, calling it a moral decision. It seems even she couldn't maintain the delusion forever.
But the most dramatic event, the one that proved he was still a danger, was the escape attempt.
October 2020. It was incredible. He managed to get out of the prison by taking a prison psychologist hostage with a fake pistol.
He got out of the prison walls.
He did, but not for long. He only made it about 500 meters before police had him surrounded. He was hiding on a patch of grass in a residential neighborhood.
And that was a long standoff, right?
For hours, yeah. Because he had this belt-like object strapped to his waist, and the police were afraid it was a bomb.
Another manipulation, a staged threat to maintain control.
Absolutely. It was only after the bomb squad confirmed it was a fake that they were able to move in and capture him. He got another 21 months added to his life sentence for that little stunt.
While his story continues to be this chaotic mess of manipulation, it's so important that we shift the focus back to Kim Wall and to her legacy.
Absolutely. Her parents have been incredibly clear from the start that her killer has no place in their lives, but that her work, her mission, must continue.
And they established the Kim Wall Foundation to do just that.
They did in 2018. The foundation gives out annual scholarships of $5,000 to female and non-binary journalists to support the kind of reporting Kim was known for. Deep dives into stories that are often overlooked.
They also wrote a book, didn't they?
They did. It's titled Kim Wall. They describe it as being about love, empathy, and hope, even in the face of this unimaginable nightmare. And all the proceeds from that book go right back into the foundation.
And her partner, Ole, has kept her memory alive in such a powerful way.
Through running, yeah. He and her colleagues organize these Run for Kim events in cities all over the world, Copenhagen, New York, Beijing. The participation fees go directly to the foundation. It's all about making sure her life is defined by the light she created, not the darkness that took her.
I think we should end with Ole's own words, his memory of seeing her for the last time on the Nautilus. He wrote that he saw her laughing in the tower and thought, "You are too good to be true. How blessed I feel and how bright our future looks. I look forward to you coming back, as always, when you are away."
That sense of potential, just violently erased, is what makes this so tragic. And it leaves you with this really frightening question. How can a person be so driven, so brilliant on one level, building submarines, aiming for space, and yet be housing this terrifying, hidden world of violence?
This case is just a stark illustration of what happens when that kind of supreme narcissism meets a complete and chilling lack of human empathy.
It's a true moral black hole.